This is ATN Global News. First, the headlines. Physical verification for 10,000 civil service jobs begins. IGP orders crackdown on killers of security personnel. Atiku gets victory in U.S. court on Chicago University. Omahe says 7 trillion naira needed for Southeast Road reconstruction. King Charles III begins first state visit as monarch in France. Ballet of Ikorodu intervenes over Mohbad's death. Sadiq prepares for debut appearance against Inter Milan. The rest of our stories. Rivers State government says it has commenced fiscal screening of successful applicants for the 10,000 jobs into the state civil service. This came 4 months after former Governor Nyesom Wike directed the State Civil Service Commission to begin the employment, while some applicants have confirmed receiving text messages inviting them for the interview. Chairman of the Civil Service Commission, Clifford Walter, said out of the 10,000 applicants, only 7,000 were sent messages and would be interviewed for employment in the mainstream civil service, adding that out of the 10,000, 2,000 slots have been given to the State Primary and Post-Primary Schools Board to increase the manpower needs for teachers in the state. He also said about 450 slots have been reserved for the Judicial Service Commission and Health Management Board to employ judicial officers, doctors, and health officers, respectively, stressing that after the physical verification, appointment letters will be issued to the successful applicants. Rivers State Police Command has paraded 7 of its officers for alleged professional misconduct. The Commissioner of Police, Nwonyi Emeka, while parading its officers, stated that crime and criminality know no status, whether a police officer or civilian, adding that investigation is ongoing and assured the public that the police will not cover anybody. The commissioner reiterated that neither the Inspector General of Police, Assistant Inspector General, nor himself had sent any police officer to commit crime and advised police personnel to live beyond normal standard of discipline, while promising that when investigation is finished, necessary disciplinary procedure will follow in the case. Meanwhile, Peter Chukwu, the lawyer to the social media influencer who was allegedly extorted 50 million naira, has commended the Commissioner of Police for the arrest, while appealing that the command continues with the investigation. In a related development, the Commissioner's strike force last week Sunday arrested 2 male suspects, Chibuike Irona and Michael Ibe, in a black Toyota Camry at the Gruta, Ikwere local government area, and recovered 3 locally made pistols. Families who lost loved ones during the 2015 governorship election violence in Bayelsa State are demanding justice and accountability for the brutal killings of their relatives. The demand for justice is coming aftermath of a similar demand initiated by the coalition of pro-democracy organizations that shed light on the atrocities committed during the election that was concluded with a rerun in southern Ijaw local government area after initial violence. The families and governments to prosecute the candidate of All Progressives Congress, Chief Timothy Silva, who is currently contesting for the governorship of the state for the upcoming November 11 governorship election. This is coming after a coalition had earlier demanded that the Bayelsa State and the federal government immediately prosecute persons indicated to have been involved or found to have supported the violence that criticized the election. The 2015 governorship election in Bayelsa State was marred by widespread violence, with lives lost due to political thuggery and lawlessness, whilst among those who lost their lives were Roland Yinkore, Simeon Otor, and Isaac Godgift, whose family are now demanding justice. A pro-democracy organization recently conducted a thorough review into the election violence and released a report that identified key perpetrators, some of whom were prominent politicians and their key supporters. The report not only revealed the extent of the violence, but also indicated that there were individuals who bear direct responsibility for these heinous crimes. In the wake of this revelation, the families of the victims are now joining forces to demand justice for their loved ones, and the families demand that the identified perpetrators of the violence, regardless of their political affiliations, be swiftly brought to justice, while stressing that holding these individuals accountable is essential for the healing of their communities and the prevention of future electoral violence. In view of reported incidences of kidnappings along Jersey axis of Delta State, the police command in the state has affirmed that its patrol teams have encountered a gang of armed bandits who laid wait in the bush to attack and kidnap unsuspecting motorists who have been gunned down. A statement issued by the command spokesman, DSP Bright Edafe, in the Warri noted that following public outcry on the presence of suspected kidnappers in the Jersey forests along the Warri-Benin Highway, the State Commissioner of Police, CP Wale Abbas, on September 12 directed the deployment of operatives of the Special Anti-Kidnapping and Cybercrime Squad team, among others, to the area. According to the statement, that on September 18, 2023, during a joint patrol along Jersey Igueleba in Edo State, the team encountered a gang of armed bandits who laid wait in the bush to attack and kidnap unsuspecting motorists and hoodlums who apparently sighted the police team, fired at the front tire of the head pickup van, and incidentally demobilized the vehicle. The PPRO stated that armed gangsters eventually succumbed to the superior firepower of the policemen who pursued them into the deep forest, during which 4 suspected kidnappers were fatally wounded, while one AK-47 rifle with 25 rounds of live ammunition were recovered from the gang, while the wounded suspects were taken to the hospital for treatment, where they were later certified dead. CP Abbas, while applauding the gallantry of the security operatives, admonished them to do more and continue in the fight against kidnapping and other vices, and also appealed to the members of the public to always provide the command with credible information that would help the police in its fight. Delta State Task Force Committee on Drug Trafficking has combed drug dens in Sapele local government area of the state and arrested 7 suspects. 4 men and 3 women were apprehended with various illicit drugs like tramadol, codeine, and cannabis worth millions of naira, led by Pastor Emerson Mabiako, Senior Special Advisor to the Governor on Security Matters. The task force stormed the locations following credible intelligence. The suspects and their exhibits have been handed over to the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency for further investigation, while Mabiako said it was a major crackdown on drug trafficking in the state and assured continued raids across all the local governments. The task force spokesperson for the praised Governor Warri for constituting the committee to address the menace of drug abuse and trafficking ravaging youths in the state. People's Democratic Party has called on Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State and his deputy, Philip Shaibu, to shift the swords and give peace a chance. The party expressed surprise that official letters of the state government, which should be confidential and were now dominating the social media space. The PDP National Vice Chairman of South and former chairman of the party in Edo State, Chief Dan Oribi, made the intervention in a statement issued in Abuja titled, "Do Not the Market PDP in Edo State." He was reaching to the face-off between Obaseki and Shuaibu, which appeared to have defied settlement. This is coming after Shaibu had gone to a federal high court in Abuja to stop his planned impeachment by Obaseki, although he later withdrew the case following intervention of stakeholders, while the case came up again when the governor relocated the office of the deputy, and Shaibu was also barred from entering his office in the government house on Monday. An official letter of his relocation surfaced on the social media. The letter, dated September 15, 2023, was received by a permanent secretary in the office of the deputy governor and acknowledged on Monday, September 18, 2023. The PDP chieftain, Obi, advised that Obaseki and his deputy should bury the hatchet and allow peace to reign for the sake of the governorship scheduled for next year. Four unrepentant cultists have been granted 4 repentant cultists have been granted the Auchi Polytechnic amnesty in Edo State. Director of the Polytechnic, Dr. Salisu Omar, which disclosed this while addressing the repentant cult members, urged the students of the institution to renounce their membership in cults. This is coming after the former cultists renounced their membership of secret cult groups at a renunciation program organized by the management of the Polytechnic in Auchi, Edo, and urged all the students who didn't want to publicly renounce their memberships to do so. Earlier, Mr. Daniel Osita, who gave his testimony as a renounced cultist, commended the students for renouncing cultism while advising the students to be mindful of the decisions they make in life, pointing out that choices made by humans in life either make or mar their future. Governor Bassi Otu of Cross River State has promised to offset the medical bills of victims of the Calabar gas explosion. This is coming after last week a family of 4, Prince Efon, his pregnant wife, Joy Prince, daughter, and their 1-year-old child were involved in a gas explosion accident which occurred in their home at number 10 30th Street, Calabar South, while residents of the Bayside community in Calabar South area had helped to evacuate the victims to a nearby health facility when the incident happened. Represented by his chief of staff, Emmanuel Iromba, the governor appreciated God that no death occurred and that the people did not look the other way but assisted in evacuating the victims to the hospital while maintaining that the lives of all citizens are important no matter their status in the society, and commended the management of the hospital for putting the lives of the people first by commencing treatment even without any payment. He expressed happiness that the victims were first recovering and assured of the government's willingness to take care of hospital bills as well as partner with the hospital in many other areas. Governor Otu said. Governor Otu used the opportunity to reiterate the readiness of his administration to partner with relevant healthcare providers to achieve the United Nations universal care coverage in the state, adding that affordable health care for all is a cardinal part of the administration's plan towards achieving goals. On her part, Medical Director of the facility, Dr. Edet Ati, said they have been able to pass the most dangerous stage in burn management while confirming that the victims are responding to treatment and doing well. Abia State government has commenced palliative work on Omahia Ekot Ebene Federal Road to provide relief for the commuters and reduce the rate of accidents on the road, Kano stated. This on the outcome of this week's Executive Council meeting chaired by Governor Alex Oti in Omahia, the state capital, adding that by the intervention, it is aimed at providing succor for the commuters, even though it is a federal government road. In the same vein, the Leach Up Abia project has covered 36 streets in Omahia and extended to Aba Owerri Factory, MCC Okigwe, and Brass Roads, all in Aba. Similarly, his colleague of the Ministry of Works, Don Oti, explained that the proposed 6-line Omahia-Osa Road project would begin as soon as the procedure was completed, while the procedure include payment of compensation to owners of structures that would be affected and commencement of their demolition. Troops of the 82 Division Nigerian Army and the Nigerian Police have gunned down 6 combatants of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra and its armed affiliate, Eastern Security Network, in different encounters in Abia and Enugu states. In a statement by the Director of Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Onyema Nwachukwu in Abuja, said the troops had eliminated 3 IPOB gunmen in a fierce encounter during a clearance operation at Iboro Forest between Arochukwu and Ohafia local government areas of Abia State. He said the troops also destroyed several hideous camps used by the groups to perpetrate heinous crimes, while after several weeks of credible surveillance revealed that IPOB were using the forest as a combat training ground for their members and as a base for planning and launching attacks on targeted civilians, security operatives, and government facilities in the state. Reacting to the development on ATM blowouts, public affairs analyst Barrister Mike Karikpo urged the federal government to reach a resolution with aggrieved parties involved and bring development in order to drive economic growth for inhabitants of the Southeast. Here are the highlights.
you know, when you start a process, often you don't know how you might not be able to control how it plays out. And so, um, what I think needs to be done, what I think needs to be done, will be to do the first things first. Let's let's get the low-hanging fruits. Get Nnamdi Kanu out. Let him speak to the generality of our people, the people in the southeast, to the young men who are uh, doing this, who are involved in this, and let us bring development to the southeast. I think we can do this side by side. We get Nnamdi Kanu, let him be the spokesperson for peace in the southeast and in Nigeria. Let us calm down the temperature. Let us make sure that we can sit down and listen to each other, because it is important. And if there are the possibility of amending the Constitution, especially Section 86 of the Constitution, and to look at whether we can allow for a referendum, for the processes that will lead to that. We should do that. The lives, the amount of lives that have been lost, it's not something we should allow. It's not something that should continue. Because like you said, even if Nnamdi Kanu comes up and you have the other guy somewhere else, moving young men and doing his own stuff, so you now clearly have a partition in that process that may not lead to the kind of peace.
Mike Carrickball also advised the government to explore the potential of having a referendum if certain people of a region do not want to remain within the sovereignty of the nation. Here are the highlights.
After years of argument and all of that, they had the Brexit, and you know, so things like that could happen, and then we can sit back, reflect on where we are going to, and deal with it. It's a federation. It's not a forced coming together. It's a federation of people. If a few persons or a part of the federation doesn't feel like it is getting its due, then we can do two things. We can make sure that we sit down and understand what is required in that part, or we allow them exercise their God-given freedom to do what they need to do. So I think that ordinarily, I am sure even if there's a referendum, it won't go for Biafra or for the Southeast moving out from Nigeria. It won't work. In the
Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma has vowed that the unknown gunmen who murdered security operatives in the Ehime Mbano local government area of the state on Tuesday would be tracked and brought to book. This is coming after unidentified gunmen on Tuesday attacked and killed no fewer than 8 security operatives, including police, military, and officers of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC. Reacting after visiting the scene, the state governor, in a post on his official account, expressed sadness over the unfortunate incident, assuring citizens that justice would be served, and called on members of the community to remain calm, asking them not to be dismayed by the development. Governor Uzodinma also said the barbaric act is unacceptable and has directed a collaborative effort amongst the security units of justice and appealed for cooperation from the community to campaign against criminality and its associated vices in the state, while commiserating with the security agencies whose men were involved in the ugly incident. Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has ordered a crackdown on assailants who murdered about 8 security operatives in Imo State on Tuesday. This is coming after the yet-to-be-identified gunmen on Tuesday who attacked and murdered some security operatives, including police, military, and officers of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps in the Ehime Mbano local government area of Imo State. According to a viral video, the security operatives were killed and burnt alongside a patrol vehicle, while the police hierarchy, in a statement by the force by the Force Public Relations Officer, ACP Olumuyiwa Adejobi, condemned the attack, assuring that the culprits would be fished out and prosecuted. The statement explained that the victims were responding to a fake distress call from the area when the assailants ambushed them, while assuring the public that the Nigeria Police Force is fully committed to collaborating closely with other relevant authorities to conduct a thorough and comprehensive investigation into this heinous act while relentlessly pursuing the cause of justice. The Inspector General of Police also said the force would redouble its efforts to bring the culprits to book and guarantee the safety of the officers and the security of the communities, while earnestly imploring the public to remain calm and vigilant, and further urged the public to extend their cooperation to law enforcement agencies in the collective pursuit of peace and order in Imo State and other parts of the country. In the same vein, acting IGP Olukayode Ewetekun equally extended thoughts and prayers to the families of the fallen heroes, pledging that the sacrifices made by their loved ones will not be in vain. Members of the Anambra State Vigilante Group have rescued 3 girls from a baby factory and child trafficking syndicate in Umunze, Orumba, South local government area of the state. According to a post on social media platform of the Anambra State Commissioner for Women and Social Welfare, Honorable Ife Obinabo, said it achieved the arrest after a 3-month investigation conducted by operatives of the Anambra Vigilante Group at Orumba South, led by the chairman of the council area, Prince Neville Uchendu, handing over the suspect and the girls. Uchendu noted that his team was able to burst the syndicate after a careful 3 months investigation on the suspect, while appreciating the Commissioner for Women and Social Welfare, Obinabo, and revealed that he brought the suspect to her because he knows she will take action immediately. Receiving the suspect before handing him over to the police, Obinabo expressed joy over the result of the months of investigation carried out and noted that the state government was pleased that with the development and called on others to emulate the Orumba South chairman in making Anambra State a livable and prosperous homeland. The Women Affairs boss went on to assure that the apprehended syndicate will not go scot-free, but must face the consequences of his crime in court. While upon interrogation, the suspect, Oruchukwu Okorafor, said that he had been in the business for 2 years and that the girls found in his house were his first set for the business this year. The suspect also confessed that the supposed buyers have already promised to pay the sum of 300,000 naira for the unborn children, but denied having their contact information. Meanwhile, the girls, who are about between the ages of 14 and 20 years, are currently pregnant, revealed that the suspect, Okorafo, is not responsible for the pregnancy, but that he offered to shelter them at his house pending when they put to bed. International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law, Inter-Society, are demanding answers from Nigeria military and police authorities over alleged summary execution of 3 youths from Izioha Mbowo in Ago local government area of Enugu State. Recall that report by police said that 3 IPOB ESN enforcers were neutralized by joint army and police team during a gun duel at Izioha Mbowo in Ogo local government area, Enugu State, around 2 a.m. on Monday. The Inter-Society, in a statement signed by key officers, said, from our fact checks, including contacts made to reliable sources in Mbowo in Ogo, the circumstances leading to the killings, including their timing, legal and operational basis, have been marred in controversies. Intercity is therefore strongly condemning the 2 dastardly acts and call on the Nigerian police, the Nigerian military, and the jihadist headsmen and other jihadist fighting parties laying siege on the southeast to respect the dignity of human person and sanctity of human life. They must also leave the defenseless citizens of the southeast and their properties alone. Reacting to the development on ATM blowout, public affairs analyst Barrister Mike Carrickmore urged security agencies to obey the rule of law in its quest to maintain law and order in and around the country.
It's very important that we stamp out the issue of summary execution. That the rule of law should be what guides all of our actions, both for the military and for the civilians in our society. And so, um, if these young men were arrested and we are sure that they were in that situation where they were exchanging gunshots with the military, it's a different ballgame. But if they were just arrested and then summarily executed, you see, this is what leads to the other issue that just happened in Imo State. People want to pay back. People want to retaliate. And so that's why all of our actions must be, especially for the military, must be guided by clear standard operational guidelines and the rule of law. So that at every point in time, people have a clear idea that the military and the security agencies are there for the safety and the security of all of us, not to carry out the murder of Nigerians. And we've not gotten to that point where a court of law has declared that this person's committed an offense. So we need to get to that point where we all obey the rule of law. It's very important.
Barrister Mike Karipo further condemned the wanton killing of civilians without being tried in a court of competent jurisdiction to prove them guilty before being executed.
Why the rule of law ought to be what guides all of what we do. And it's very plain, very clear that something must have gone terribly wrong in that situation. We know when you have persons who are armed and who are doing what they do, but when young men who are on their own are arrested and then summarily executed by the Nigerian military without giving them the opportunity that the law, the Constitution gives to each and every one of us, that we are presumed innocent until the contrary is proven. So you know, it's very difficult to stomach some of these issues. I went through this and I'm like, these are young men who have their future ahead of them. And to be killed in that manner without clear offenses having been committed is a tragedy. And it is what you have playing out around the Southeast. It's now like a tit for tat. You just go in and you kill, and then these guys kill. Let's get to that point where we can all sit down together and discuss it. And like I said before, we've done it before with the Niger Delta militants. We can do it again with the young men in the Southeast. Why the rule of...
Medical doctor at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Idi Araba, Dr. Omar Michael, has lost his life after reportedly being on call duty for straight 72 hours at the neurosurgery unit. The Association of Resident Doctors disclosed this in a letter dated September 19, addressed to LUTH Chief Medical Director, which late Dr. Omar is supposed to round up his housemanship job at the hospital next month before his untimely death. The doctors accused their senior colleagues of bullying, giving them stressful call hours without breaks, and not providing feeding and good accommodation. The letter pointed out that the doctors have long-standing challenges since they resumed housemanship here, and one most striking challenge is the bullying we received from our senior colleagues. Stressful call hours without breaks in between, no call food, no good accommodation. They demanded that house officers who did call the previous day should be allowed either half day the next day or allowed to resume work by midday the following day, and that house officers should not be made to work 48 hours at stretch, adding that the compulsory house check at the beginning of house job should be free or grossly subsidized for house officers, while senior colleagues should make the work environmentally friendly for them. Osun State government has expressed its displeasure on the cases of encroachment into lands belonging to public schools across the state. A statement signed by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, Murtala Jimo, said What the land grabbers are doing is nothing but pure impunity and lack of respect for the laws, and warn individuals and families and groups that have encroached on school lands or are planning to do so to vacate all encroached government properties without further delay. He also said government will definitely take back the possession of all school lands that had hitherto been encroached on, while all encroachers will be prosecuted and enjoin school heads to go about their businesses without fear of intimidation, as the government has mapped out necessary machinery to guard against further encroachment. Under State Governor Oluwatomi Akeredolu has endorsed the All Progressives Congress National Chairman, Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje, leadership to move the party towards growth and unity. Governor Akeredolu stated that Ganduje's extensive experience garnered from serving 2 terms as Kano State Governor has equipped him adequately to steer the party towards significant progress and development. He disclosed this when he hosted a high-powered delegation led by Ganduje. A statement in Akure said, the state capital by Akeredolu's chief press secretary, Richard Olatunde, the delegation includes National Secretary Senator Sarajuddin Ajibola Bashiru, National Vice Chairman Southeast Honorable Isaac Kekemeke, Deputy National Secretary Sophistus Ponta, Deputy National Financial Secretary Honorable Hama Ali Kumo, and former Deputy Governors Chief Moses Adeyemo and Rauf Olaniyan, among others. The governor further expressed his appreciation for the chairman's directive for state party structures to maintain appropriate offices, that the governor is extremely important to the party and the country, while acknowledging the party's consistent prayers for the governor. Benue State Governor Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia has endorsed collaboration among security agencies that will bring about relative peace in the state. The governor, who spoke during the graduation ceremony of Course 9 2023 of the Air War College at the Nigerian Air Force Base, Makadi, assured the security agencies of the support of the state government, adding that the presence of the armed forces in the state and their continuous engagement in significant events will create confidence and hope for the people, enabling them to sleep with their eyes closed. He equally thanked the federal government and the Nigerian Armed Force for supporting Benue State, which, according to him, remains the most hospitable in the country, and charged them to continue to be good ambassadors as they serve their fatherland. Earlier in his address, the Minister of Defense, Mohammed Abubakar, represented by the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, commended the Nigerian Armed Forces for constantly repositioning itself with a strong focus on human capital development. Abubakar said the War College will enhance critical thinking in the Nigerian Air Force, while also providing proactiveness in the military decision-making processes, and thanked the governor for making time out of his busy schedule to attend the graduation ceremony, stressing that the Benue State governor has demonstrated willingness to collaborate with the Nigerian Armed Forces, while assuring that the military will give him the needed support to ensure that peace is restored in the state. State and National Assembly Election Petition Tribunal, sitting in Gombe, has nullified election of Speaker of the Gombe State House of Assembly, Abubakar Mohammed Lugerewo. This is coming after Dr. Bashir Abdullahi Gaddafi of the People's Democratic Party dragged Lugerewo of the All Progressives Congress and the Independent National Electoral Commission before the tribunal over illegal cancellation of results in 4 polling units. Dr. Gaddafi told the court that the election for Akko Central State constituency held on March 18 was barred by irregularities and massive rigging by the candidate of the ruling APC. In his ruling, presiding judge Justice Michael Uger faulted the cancellation of results of the polling units 001, 024, and 014 of Kumo at the collation center after they were earlier announced at the respective polling units, while the petitioner has proved to the court the unlawful cancellation of his votes and returned the cancelled votes to the petitioner, which resulted in Gaddafi's merging over the speaker with over 300 votes. However, the judge ordered for a rerun in Kuma East 018, where votes were destroyed, to determine the winner of the Akko Central seat. between Lugrewo of the APC and Gaddafi of the PDP. The tribunal also ordered the INEC to withdraw the certificate of return issued to Speaker Lugrewo and conduct a rerun election within the next 90 days of the judgment. Kano Governorship Election Petition Tribunal has sacked Governor Abba Kaba Yusuf, declaring the All Progressives Congress winner of the March 18 election. Yusuf, who contested on the platform of the New Nigeria People's Party, was declared the winner of the election by the Independent National Electoral Commission after the poll in March. But on Wednesday, the three-man panel, after hearing the petition, ordered the withdrawal of the certificate of return, which INEC presented to Yusuf, and directed a certificate of return to be issued to Gawuna. The court deducted 165,663 votes from Yusuf's total as invalid votes, stating that the affected ballot papers were not stamped or signed and therefore declared invalid, while the ruling comes about 6 months after the APC candidate conceded defeat to Yusuf in the aftermath of the presentation of the certificate of return to the NNPP candidate by INEC. In a 2-minute audio statement on March 29, Gawuna stated that as a good Muslim, he was compelled to accept the outcome of the election, whether in his favor or not, adding that although his campaign team had requested a review of the election results by INEC, upon review, the commission had found Yusuf to be the winner of the election. Chieftain of the New Nigeria People's Party, who was in court to witness the proceeding, has rejected the judgment of the court. This is coming after the Kano Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sacked Governor Abba Kaba Yusuf, declaring the All Progressives Congress winner of the March 18 election. Bauchi State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal has dismissed the petition filed by the All Progressives Congress and its governorship candidate, Sadiq Abubakar. The tribunal affirmed the victory of Governor Bala Muhammad of the People's Democratic Party. The three-man panel, chaired by Justice P.T. Kwaha, held that there was no strong reason to nullify the election, stating that the poll was conducted in compliance with the law. This is coming after the Independent National Electoral Commission declared Bala Mohammed winner of the March 18 governorship election, while the APC candidate, a former chief of air staff, approached the court to nullify the election over alleged irregularities. Nigerian Labour Congress has maintained that the Trade Union Congress cannot stop its proposed nationwide strike. This is that it happens that the division between labor unions is widening as they seem not to be on the same page on the proposed strike. The NLC president, Joe Ajero, had yesterday said that the TUC could not back out of a strike without giving notice, while the 21-day notice given by the NLC to the federal government will expire on Thursday. This is coming following insinuations the TUC did not take part in the 2-day warning strike by the NLC on September 5 and 6, while the TUC president, Festus Osufo, had argued that talks should be allowed to go on between the federal government and the labor unions instead of embarking on a strike. The TUC president, however, said its members have not been served any notice to go on strike, while the Congress had agreed to give the federal government time to solicit for, which is also for President Bola Tinubu to return from the ongoing United Nations General Assembly in New York, United States. Osifo also said the unions will meet to review the situation and come up with a joint position. Certificate forgery allegations have featured prominently again as election petition tribunals delivered judgment across the country. Allegations on forged or missing certificates have become a recurring issue in Nigeria's political scene since 1999, when the country returned to democracy. Although not all the allegations resulted in proven cases of certificate forgery, as some cases were dismissed in court due to a lack of evidence, a few others were rightly found guilty of this infraction. However, the trend has continued unabated unabated with the recent judgments. However, the trend has continued unabated with the recent judgments emanating from the various election petition tribunals on the outcome of 2023 general elections, while some members of the National Assembly were sacked by tribunals over certificates forgery. It is believed that the last is yet to be heard, as the affected lawmakers are appealing the judgments. This is coming after the National Assembly Election Petitions Tribunal across the country had upturned the election victories of 25 House of Representatives members and 5 senators, adding that the PDP has lost 12 members in the House, closely followed by the Labour Party with 10 members, while the new Nigeria People's Party and the APC have lost 3 and 1 members respectively. Presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has gained a major victory in the United States as part of his ongoing push to demonstrate Bola Tinubu's ineligibility to be Nigeria's president, while a federal court in Chicago ruled on Tuesday night that Chicago State University must turn over all records relating to Mr. Tinubu to Mr. Abubakar within 2 days, saying the former vice president has been able to sufficiently satisfy the purpose for seeking the records. Judge Jeffrey Gilbert also ordered the deposition of designated Chicago State University officials within 2 days after the records have been released, noting further that the process can be conducted during the weekend if necessary. The order comes hours after Mr. Abubakar filed his appeal to the Supreme Chicago State University to produce documents relating to Mr. Tinubu, as well as leave to get the school's administrators to authenticate any documents submitted under oath. Court, following the September 6 judgment of the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal that upheld Mr. Tinubu's victory, while Abubakar had on August 2 filed an application for the court to order Chicago State University that the documents would be used as part of his ongoing challenge against Mr. Tinubu's election earlier this year, adding that the candidate of the opposition People's Democratic Party said Mr. Tinubu should not have been allowed to run for president because he had submitted a forged document under oath in violation of the Nigerian Constitution. Section 137, subsection 1, paragraph J of the Nigerian Constitution amended in 2010 specifically stated that no one would legitimately elect president of Nigeria if the person has presented a forged certificate to the Independent National Electoral Commission, while on June 17, 2022, Mr. Tinubu submitted a certificate to INEC that was purportedly issued in 1979 and signed by Elnora Daniel. But Miss Daniel only arrived at Chicago State University in 1998 from Hampton University, 19 years after Mr. Tinubu was said to have graduated. She left the school in 2008 following a financial mismanagement scandal. Or 14 years before, June 2022, when Chicago State University issued yet a fresh certificate in Mr. Tinubu's name under subpoena from a Nigerian lawyer who had inquired about Mr. Tinubu's education there. The irregularities prompted Mr. Abubakar to file the suit to compel Chicago State University to produce records relating to Mr. Tinubu and make its top officials available for deposition to certify the produced records. During a hearing on the matter on September 12, the Chicago State University's lawyer, Michael Hayes, said the school could not authenticate Mr. Tinubu's certificate if asked on the oath, although he said Mr. Tinubu attended the school and graduated in 1979, while Mr. Tinubu's lawyers, led by Christopher Carmichael, argued that the court should not grant Mr. Abubakar's application because it was a frivolous expedition aimed at soiling the Nigerian president's image. But Judge Gilbert said courts across the U.S. have traditionally taken a broad and liberal view in granting applications under Section 1782, a statute that allows the release of documents and evidence domiciled in the U.S. to be obtained and used in a foreign proceeding. Chief Justice of Nigeria, Olukayode Ariwola, has lamented the rising number of litigations in the country. He said apart from several new crimes being committed, which had contributed to the steady rise of court cases in the country. Political cases were taking a monumental toll on courts' dockets across the country. Ariwola, who disclosed that at the swearing-in of 9 justices of the Court of Appeal in Abuja, lamented that the situation had placed Nigeria among countries with a large number of litigations in the world. He said, it underscores the undisputed fact that Nigeria continuously ranks among the most litigious countries in the world, adding that it is high time the judiciary began to imbibe the culture of less litigation and more alternative dispute resolution mechanisms on how courts can be freed of unnecessary burden and depletion of both human and material resources, advising the justices, Ariwola enjoined them to flee from irresistible gifts from high-profile cases, adding that they would affect their reputations and career progression, while urging them to conduct their duties in accordance with the law of the country, adding that by their current position, they would be subject to more public scrutiny than ever. Joint Admission and Matriculation Board's Equal Opportunity Group has suspended its first national conference on equal opportunity of access of higher education in Nigeria. The conference, earlier scheduled to hold September 26 and 27, has been rescheduled for September 25 and 26, the exam body says. The conference has as its theme towards increasing equal opportunity of access to higher education in Nigeria. New dates were announced in a statement issued in Abuja on Wednesday by the Acting Director, Public Affairs and Protocol of JAM, Dr. Fabian Benjamin. Benjamin said the change in the date became expedient as there was the possibility that the federal government could declare Wednesday, September 27, a public holiday, while the board regrets all inconveniences occasioned by this change in date. It calls on all stakeholders, including all heads of tertiary institutions, heads of examination bodies, WAEC, NACO, and the National Business and Technical Examinations Board to take note. The statement also said others to take note are the National Board for Arabic and Islamic Studies, Commissioners for Education, heads of schools of persons with disabilities and deans of faculties of education, and to take note of the change of dates are heads of departments of special education, leaders and members of the Association of Persons with Disabilities and the general public, adding that the conference is aimed at boosting the enrollment opportunities of persons with disabilities in the Nigerian tertiary education system. Minister of State for Education, Dr. Tanko Sununu, has advised students, parents, and lecturers in public tertiary institutions to shun acts capable of disrupting the academic session as schools resume. Sununu, who disclosed this in Abuja on when the leadership of the Congress of University Academics paid him a courtesy visit, said the show of restraint would be in the best interest of all stakeholders, as well as the stability of the system, adding that his ministry is having constructive dialogue and consultation with stakeholders over the welfare of students and staff, as well as the provision of infrastructure in the nation's tertiary institutions, while acknowledging that strikes and non-use of facilities could lead to rapid decay. Sununu promised President Bola Tinubu's commitment to avoid any situation that could lead to further industrial actions. Earlier speaking, the president of Konwa, Niyi Sunmunu, said there could be a likelihood of unrest occasioned by the new increase in school fees, which he said had the potential to disrupt academic activities and the school calendar, and appealed to the government to look into ways of improving the condition of service of academic and non-academic staff of universities, which he said had deteriorated, also due to the petroleum subsidy removal. He added that there was a need to revisit the issue of the 8-month salary arrears that arose from the last strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, arguing that the members of CONUA did not go on strike. You are watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. We will be back after this break. Welcome back. This is the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. Now to the rest of our stories. Coalition for Parliamentary Democracy has cautioned the Senate President to step down. According to the group, the Senate President has reportedly fallen out of favor with his colleagues. The group stated this in reaction to claims from Akpabio's office that one South-South governor was behind a plot to impeach him, while the group said the former Akwa Ibom State governor must stop pointing accusing fingers and rather come clean on why other lawmakers do not want him in the position. A statement signed by its national coordinator, Dr. Menike Johnson, said the senators had clearly adduced Akpabio's perceived failure to fit into the duties of a presiding officer and providing a transparent and credible leadership as reason for their decision to move against him. Other than that, as parliamentary watchers, they believe that Senator Akpabio should face the issues raised by his colleagues, including allegations of lack of transparency, violation of elementary rudiments, conventions, and processes of presiding over the Senate, diminution the integrity of the Senate on financial matters, and claims of preferentialism in the management of the Senate. He noted that the attempt to overheat the polity by blaming external individuals is therefore a self-indicting measure that does not provide the much expected answers to the very critical issue of leadership failure raised by senators against the embattled Senate president, stressing that he has lost favor with his colleagues and having no answers to the very serious issues raised by the senators, which borders on leadership failure and further cancels Senator Akpabio to save the nation from trouble by stepping down as Senate president. House of Representatives ad hoc committee investigating the sales and disposal of public property has given a final warning of appearance to the Nigerian Customs Service to appear before it or face the full wrath of law. The committee, led by the House Majority Leader, Honorable Julius Ohonvere, criticized the Customs Service for ignoring their summons after 2 invitations. The mandate of the ad hoc committee is to investigate the disposal of public property from 2010 to 2022, as well as to unravel the extent of illegal auctioning of public property and non-remittance of revenue realized into the consolidated revenue of the Federation. Honorable Ihonvere expressed concern over the inability Nigerian Customs Service to appear after the committee spent from its scarce resources in publishing the summons in newspapers, only to get a reply of an apology from the service for their inability to appear before the committee due to some operations outside Abuja, adding that the arrogance of power and indiscipline in the public stream system can have negative consequences and should be addressed. Here are the highlights.
I think what the Customs is assuming is that this ad hoc committee has a limitless life. Just like if you import a vehicle, there is a time within which you must clear it before it goes into demurrage. And after some time, they will take necessary steps within and even auction your vehicle, no matter the time. So I think it is irresponsible of the Nigerian Customs to once again take the invitation to this house lightly. They think this is a joke. I want to assure them I'm ready to go the entire length of the law with the Nigerian Customs. They must appear before the house. We've been respectful, we've written, we've published the summons in the paper. The summons carries a date when they must appear. And then they send me some innocuous letter signed by one Deputy Controller General, Finance Admin, and Technical Services, who feels too big to even come here in person. This kind of arrogance of power and indiscipline must be wiped out in this system. It cannot continue. It cannot continue. And we are empowered by the Constitution to make sure that agencies of government funded by the National Assembly do the right thing. And whether the Customs like it or not, they must and will do the right thing. I think what
the ad hoc committee thereafter met with the Nigerian Ports Authority, but was not convinced with their presentation.
We have receipts of payment, and based on the remitter that was generated by Nigerian Ports Authority. We have the receipt of payments. So technically with the receipt of payments, it means payment has been made. And once the payment has been made, then the winning or the winner of the bid is able to carry out the asset with the supervision of the disposal committee indeed.
Now you've showed us the list of auctioneers that you appointed. There's nothing, I've gone through this document. I want to see where the valuers that valued what you have auctioned.
You have an asset you want to dispose of. It is not our business. It is your decision. But we want to know, when was this purchased? For how much? And how much are you selling it for? So we are going to give you time. Please look at what we asked for and some of the questions we have raised here, and number the pages appropriately. That way we can flow with you.
The agency was directed to come back next week Monday with the relevant documents, including the list of properties slated for auctioning, evaluation reports and name of registered values involved, and their reports, government approval, including Office of BPP Federal Executive Council, as well as certification of no objection where necessary, evidence of remittances into the Consolidated Revenue Fund, bidding documents that will assist the committee. Now, business news. Nigeria Employers Consultative Association have urged the leadership of the National Assembly to focus on strengthening the capacity of the executive agencies to effectively carry out their functions. The Director General, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ajayi Kadar, who disclosed this in Abuja, stressing that the continuous invitation by the National Assembly on the incessant invitation and summons of organized business for investigation hearing under Section 88 and 89 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, is so challenging to the private business sectors. Mr. Segun said the Section 88 and 89 of the Constitution, which the National Assembly relied on, is not applicable to business in the private sector. Therefore, there are statutory agencies of government in the executive arm that have the responsibilities of checkmating the private business sector. The Director General and member, ILU governing body, NECA, Wale Smart Oyerinde, earlier stated that the organized business private sector are not fighting the leadership of National Assembly for any reason, but asking for freedom of carrying out the business legally in accordance with the Constitution.
The Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, NECA, have urged the leadership of the National Assembly to focus on strengthening the capacity of the executive agency to effectively carry out their functions. The Director General, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, Mr. Segun Ajayi Kadri, said this at the press briefing organized by NECA in Abuja, stressing that the continuous invitation by the National Assembly on the incessant invitation and summons of organized business for investigation hearing under Section 88 and 89 of the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, is so challenging to the private sectors.
At a time when the economy is undergoing major macroeconomic and structural challenges, as well as struggling with the fallout of recent economic reform measures, we urge the National Assembly to focus on strengthening the capacity of the executive agencies to effectively carry out their functions and refrain from carrying out any activity that would constitute a burden or destabilize law-abiding businesses in the form of duplicated audit and regulations. Members of organized businesses have been inundated with several letters of invitation and summons for different investigative hearings by the various committees and ad hoc committees of the National Assembly, that's the Senate and the House of Representatives. premised on Section 88 and 89 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. This has been a notable challenge since the 7th National Assembly from year 2012. Recently, several remittance to the National Housing Fund and utilization of the fund from 2011 to date. And secondly, the ad hoc committee to investigate the compliance of ministries, departments, and agencies of government and corporate bodies with the Industrial Training Fund Act, amongst other committees.
Mr. Shegun said the Section 88 and 89 of the Constitution, which the National Assembly relied on, is not applicable to businesses in the private sectors. Therefore, there are statutory agencies of government in the executive arm that have the responsibility of checkmating the private business sectors.
While we appreciate the efforts of the National Assembly and its various committees and ad hoc committees to investigate and carry out oversight functions on ministries, departments, and agencies of government, we are of the view that sections 88 and 89 of the Constitution relied upon by the committees of the National Assembly is not applicable to businesses in the private sector. It is our position that from the doctrine of separation of powers, there are statutory agencies of government in the executive arm that have been saddled with responsibilities to engage, inspect, audit, and against businesses in the private sector where necessary, etc.
The Director General and member of governing body, NECA, Wale Smart, Oyorinde, earlier stated that the organized business private sector are not fighting the leadership of National Assembly for any reason, but asking for freedom of carrying out the
build institutions so that we don't get ourselves into what many have called a banana kingdom, where rule of law is taken for granted by the high and mighty. So,
Minister of Works, Senator David Umahi, says over 7 trillion naira is required to reconstruct strong A roads in the southeast. The minister, who disclosed this while inspecting some of the federal roads in Imo State, also announced the termination of the road reconstruction contract of Amawo Zuzu, Umuami, Orie, Amakohia in the state. According to the minister, the termination was based on negligence and incompetence on the part of the contractor, and that the contract was awarded on December 6, 2013, and was expected to be completed on March 2015. He directed the contractor, Vic Frank, Nigeria Limited, to redesign the contract with concrete and advised that some of the federal roads in the state that links one state to the other had cut off accessibility of communities from other communities. He commended the contractor, Arab Contractors Nigeria Limited, for the engineering dexterity and the extent that they had gone, while at his last inspection at Obakala, Udobi, Udo na Umu, Owana, Obakala Road, Omahi appreciated the contractor, believed Nigeria Limited, for a job well done, saying that the company had completed 14.3 kilometers on the binder's course and 6.7 kilometers on the wearing course, while stressing that the remaining carriageway of the road should be constructed with 200 millimeters thick concrete pavement and 150 millimeters thick shoulders. Nigerian Institute of Management has advised the federal government to reduce the cost of governance in the country to reflect the current economic realities. The president and chairman of NIMS Council, Mrs. Christiana Atako, who stated this at the 2023 Annual National Management Conference held in Lagos, said, while the masses are tightening their belt because of the ongoing economic policies, it is only moral and rational that those in government make a conscious effort to reduce the cost of governance, adding that the new national leadership led by President Bola Tinubu inherited a fractured and weak economy when it took over the reins of leadership in May this year. She identified pitfalls in the economy, such as weak national currency, high rate of unemployment, food insecurity, high cost of living, unprecedented inflation rate, 24% reduction by the National Bureau of Statistics and other debilitating economic indices contributing to high cost of living as well as high cost of doing business and poor economic growth, noting that the decision to remove fuel subsidies may be painful, but it was essential for Nigeria's economic growth and stability. Atako added that it would reduce resource management, curb corruption, and ensure government spending benefits to all Nigerians, and also charged the current administration to focus on implementing policies that would promote economic growth, job creation, and poverty reduction, as well as attract foreign investment and promote entrepreneurship. Nigeria may witness another round of widespread blackouts across the country from Tuesday as the national power grid collapsed again, making it the third grid collapse in about 5 days. Power generation on the grid crashed from a peak of 3,594.60 megawatts at midnight to 42.7 megawatts by midday, while only the Delta power plant was operational on the grid, contributing 41 megawatts, while AFAM generated 1.7 megawatts. This is coming after the federal government had explained that the nationwide blackout witnessed the preceding day was due to a fire incident and an explosion on the Kainji, Jeba 330 kV line. Two wild power consumers, however, kicked against the never-ending excuses of the government as regards power generation and supply in Nigeria, despite privatizing generation and distribution arms of the sector since November 2013. The report stated that the grid collapsed totally around 12:40 a.m. on September 14, 2023, leading to the massive loss of supply to power distributors nationwide, while multiple sources in the power sector as well as electricity distribution companies had confirmed the development, as the Enugu Electricity Distribution Company, PLC, had issued a notice titled Notice of Total System Collapse. International Labour Organization says the existing artificial intelligence is more likely to augment than destroy job opportunities in the business industry. In its report titled The Study, Generative AI and Jobs, it noted that AI will automate some tasks rather than taking over a role entirely. It highlighted a global analysis of potential effects in job quantity and quality, and suggested that most jobs and industries were only partly exposed to automation and were more likely to be complemented rather than substituted by the latest wave of generative artificial intelligence, such as GPT. According to the report, the greatest impact of the technology is likely not to be job destruction, but rather the potential changes to the quality of jobs, notably work intensity and autonomy, adding that clerical work was found to be the category with the greatest technological exposure, with nearly a quarter of tasks considered highly exposed and more than half of tasks having medium-level exposure. It explained that in all occupational groups, including managers, professionals, and technicians, only a small share of tasks was found to be highly exposed, while about a quarter had medium exposure levels, adding that the study, which was global in scope, documented notable differences in the effects on countries at different levels of development, linked to current economic structures and existing technological gaps. Also, the report indicated the 5.5% of total employment in high-income countries was potentially exposed to the automating effects of the technology, whereas in low-income countries, the risk of automation concerned only some 0.4% of the employment, adding that since clerical jobs have traditionally been an important source of female employment as countries develop economically, one result of generative artificial intelligence could be that certain clerical jobs may never emerge in lower-income countries. World Bank says coup d'etat in Niger may put additional pressure on Nigeria and other West African nations' food markets. According to the Global Bank, the Nigerian coup d'etat puts an additional 7 million people at risk of falling into severe food insecurity in the region against a backdrop of soaring commodity and staple food prices and severe food insecurity already affecting 3.3 million people during the lean season. The bank stated this in its September food security update, adding that the coup d'etat in Niger might put additional pressure on West African food markets, whilst describing the implication of economic and financial sanctions the economic community of West African states and the West African Economic and Monetary Union imposed on the country. The Washington-based bank stated that food prices increased by up to 21% in August in Niger, and limited poor households have access to food and their ability to meet their dietary needs, while the government's limited financial capacity to implement its food assistance program. Continued provision of food aid by the World Food Program remains essential, but access restrictions are hindering delivery of aid. You're still watching the news on Atlantic Television Network. Up next is the international tidbits. President Bola Tinubu has urged the United Nations members at the hunger that sanctions should be given to companies and persons involved in illegal arms and minerals smuggling in and out of Africa. Special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Ajuri Ngelale, who disclosed this when he addressed world leaders at the 78th United Nations General Assembly in New York, USA, accused foreign entities of contributing to poverty and chaos in parts of Africa. He noted that these foreign entities cut away Africa's resources that would have been used to develop the continent and have drafted thousands of our people into servitude to illegally mine gold and other resources. Tinubu also said, member nations must reply by working with us to deter their firms and nationals from the 21st century pillage of the continent's riches, stressing that the country and continent are open for business. This is coming after President Tinubu departed Nigeria for the 70th hunger in New York, USA. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has advised the UN General Assembly that he urged the world to unite to end Russian aggression against his country because the Russian evil cannot be trusted. In a passionate speech in New York, Mr. Zelensky said, a nuclear-armed Moscow must be stopped from pushing the world to the final war, and also accused Russia of weaponing everything from food to energy. Russia's full-scale invasion has prompted widespread condemnation, while in a speech which focused heavily on the danger Russia poses to the world, he argued that other common challenges, such as climate change, can only be properly addressed after Moscow had been pushed back. Mr. Zelensky said to world leaders attending the annual General Assembly that while Russia is pushing the world to the final war, Ukraine is doing everything to ensure that after the Russian aggression, no one in the world will dare to attack any nation, and also accused Moscow of carrying out genocide by abducting Ukrainian children. Lawyer to U.S. President Joe Biden's son, Hunter, will plead not guilty to 3 criminal charges relating to a gun purchase he made in 2018. In a letter to the judge, attorney Abe Lowell confirmed the intended plea while asking that the initial court appearance be held remotely. Mr. Biden was indicated last week for possessing a gun while he was an illegal drug user and lying to buy it. And if convicted, he could face up to 25 years in prison. Mr. Lowell wrote in a 2-page court filing that the 53-year-old will waive reading of the indictment, which is merely a few pages and could easily be read at a video conference. Mr. Biden also will enter a plea of not guilty, and there is no reason why he cannot alter those 2 words by video conference, while the attorney added that seeking a video hearing was not a case of President's son seeking any special treatment. Mr. Biden's legal team initially asked last week for their client to be allowed to appear remotely, but prosecutors opposed the request, while Magistrate Judge Christopher Burke in a court order late on Monday asked that the request be made in writing by Tuesday, with a response from prosecutors due by Wednesday. King Charles III on Wednesday began his first state visit to France as monarch with a rescheduled trip aimed at showing the fundamentals of the cross-channel alliance remain strong despite a litany of political tensions after Brexit. The trip was initially planned for March and was supposed to have been Charles' first state visit abroad since becoming monarch on the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, but it was shelved due to widespread rioting and strikes across France against pension reforms. The regional itinerary in the capital, Paris, and the southwestern city of Bordeaux was packed with ceremony and pomp in a country that abolished its monarchy in the 1789 revolution and then executed the king. The king is largely unchanged, while the king and his wife, Queen Camilla, were welcomed at Paris Orly Airport by Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne, with the visit blessed by pristine autumn, clear skies. They were then to be welcomed by French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte at the Arc de Triomphe monument in central Paris, where they will lay wreaths to the country's war dead. They will then board a Citroën DS7 convertible escorted by 136 horses of the Republican Guard to head up the Champs-Élysées, the Champs-Élysées for the Élysée Palace and talk with Macron. And the Macrons will then, in the evening, host the royal couple at a sumptuous state banquet at Versailles, the palace west of the capital, synonymous with French royalty. The menu will include delicacies, including blue lobster cooked as a starter by star chef Anne Sophie, who has said she was inspired by the taste of the so-called Sun King Louis XIV, while guests at the dinner at the glittering Hall of Mirrors will include Charlotte Gainsbourg, the actor and daughter Serge Gainsbourg, and Jane Birkin, Hugh Grant, and French former Arsenal football manager Arsene Wenger. There are reminders throughout the visit of the late Queen, a French-speaking Francophile who made the 5 state visits to France during her record-breaking 70-year reign, and the Arc de Triomphe was the location for her ceremonial arrival on her last state visit in 2014, while on the first in 1957 she launched with President Reine Coty in the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles. Charles on Thursday addresses lawmakers in the French Senate, again following in the footsteps of his mother, who did the same in 2004. And now, entertainment news. Ballet of Berigwe community in Ikorodu, Lagos State, Oba Kabiru Shotobi, has intervened to prevent James Aloba, the father of late singer Irioluwa Oladimeji Aloba, a.k.a. Mohbad, from burying his corpse at midnight. This is coming after Mohbad died in a controversial manner on September 12, 2023, and was buried the following day in Ikorodu. The sudden burial sparked outrage both online and offline, with many berating his family for burying the singer before an autopsy could be carried out. However, speaking in a video trending on the internet, the Ballet of Berigwe, Oba Shotobi, said Mohbad could have been buried earlier if not for his intervention, adding that the deceased father wanted to bury him at midnight, but he kicked against it. American hip-hop stars Kodak Black and Lil Durk have mourned rising Nigerian rapper Irioluwa Oladimeji Aloba, a.k.a. Mohbad, who passed on last week. Mourning the 27-year-old in an Instagram live session with fans, Black said he just came across Mohbad's social media page a few days before the unfortunate event. He said, "Rest in peace to Mohbad. Kodak, you were his neighborhood hero till the passing." Similarly, Lil Durk paid his last respect to the late Nigerian rapper via his Instagram story and on Tuesday and wrote, "Rest in peace Mohbad, a.k.a. Imole." Here now is ATN Sports News. Omar Sadiq says he is preparing to make his UEFA Champions League debut for Real Sociedad against Inter Milan. The Group C encounter is billed for the Real Arena, while Real Sociedad are competing in the world's biggest club competition for the first time in 10 years. The Whites and Blues finished in 4th position on the La Liga table last season to earn a berth in the UEFA Champions League. Sadiq missed almost the entire 2022-2023 season with injury, and the 25-year-old has made 5 league appearances for Real Sociedad this season. Paris Saint-Germain manager Luis Enrique has hailed Kylian Mbappe as the world's best player. Enrique, who managed Lionel Messi at Barcelona, stated this after Mbappe scored a goal in PSG's UEFA Champions League 2-0 win over Borussia Dortmund on Tuesday. Mbappe opened the scoring from the spot 4 minutes into the second period before Achraf Hakimi doubled the lead for PSG, while the France international also made 4 dribbles and won 5 duels during the encounter. Speaking after the game, Enrique said about Mbappe, Kylian, for me, is the best player in the world, but more than his technical qualities, what struck me is his human quality, and it is a pleasure to have him in the locker room. He is a leader. And that's the global news for tonight. Before we go, another look at the major stories. Fiscal verification for 10,000 civil service jobs begins. IGP orders crackdown on killers of security personnel. Atiku gets victory in U.S. courts on Chicago University. Omahi says 7 trillion naira needed for Southeast Road reconstruction. King Charles III begins first state visit as monarch in France. Bale of Ikorodu intervenes over Mohbad's death. Sadiq prepares for debut appearance against Inter Milan. I am bestseller Chadamba. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on our social media platforms, Twitter at Atlantic TV Net, Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, Instagram at Atlantic Net TV Network. And do remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Do have a lovely night.